All right, and remember I was telling you about data point. This is the time that we want to focus on what the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics says in as far as the contribution of various counties to the national economy. So the KNBS says that in the year 2022, the counties produced goods and services worth 12.2 trillion shillings, which is the worth of the economy as generated by the 47 counties. But if you look at this, these are the top 10 counties. Shaded in green here. You're talking about Nairobi, Kiambu, Nakuru, Mombasa, Meru, Machakos, Kisumu, Uasin Gishu, Kakamega, and Kisii. Those are the best performing 10 counties in as far as contributing to the economy is concerned. They contributed 59.5%. That's almost 60%. So the balance, which is 40.5%, came from the rest of the country, which is 37 counties. But there are some 10 counties that contributed very little, up to 4.6% in total. These are the counties, and you can see where they come. They are on the map, the colored red. We're talking about Tharaka Nithi, we're talking about Marsabit, Taita Taveta, Garissa, Mandera, Wajir, Lamu, Tana River, Samburu, and Isiolo. We'll be getting to the details shortly. But if you're to look at the top counties that I just told you, so Nairobi County obviously leads with 3.37 trillion shillings worth of the economy, which is 27.5% of the entire economy. And the same county spent 15% of its resources in the last financial year on development. So 15 is too low because the limit should be at least 30% according to the PFM Act, that is Public Finance Management Act. Kiambu County contributed 721 billion shillings, which is about 5.9%. It is second to Nairobi. And again, it spent only 10.2% of its resources on development in the financial year ended June. For Nakuru County, the worth of it is 600 billion shillings, which is 4.9% of contribution to the economy, and they spent 22% of the resources on development. Mombasa follows, which is number 4 contributor. You may realize there's a trend here. These are basically commercial cities. They have more workers in there, more production in terms of the industries. So 564 billion shillings came from Mombasa. That is 4.6% contribution to the national economy. But the county spent 17.4% of its resources on development. Meru County, basically because of its agricultural background, 407 billion shillings is the contribution to the national economy. And of course, that is about 3.3% to the national economy. They spent 23% of resources on development. Machakos is the 6th at 378 billion worth of contribution. That is 3.1% of the national economy. And again, they spent 16.8% of resources. So you're going to compare this against the bottom counties, but those top 6 counties contributed nearly half of the worth of the economy. So you can begin to see what urbanization is doing and what agriculture is doing in terms of contributing to the economy. Now, these are the list, or the lowest. Isiolo County is actually the lowest. It contributed only 31 billion shillings, which is 0.3%. But they spend more at 26.2%, still lower than 30%, which is the threshold. Samburu County follows closely, spent 29% of its resources on development, just a percentage below the threshold. Tana River spent 21.8% on development, but their contribution to the economy again is 0.3%. So is Lamu County with its 40 billion shillings. Again, the resources that are spent on development also low at 21%. Mandera County is doing better in terms of spending on development because it is above the threshold, but then again the contribution to the national economy is only 63 billion shillings worth of services and goods. Wajir County 61.9, very close to, you can see there's a pattern, Wajir, Mandera, and actually Garissa is not so far, a 0.5% contribution to the national economy, but this expenditure on development 23%. Now Marsabit may be here, but it's spending the highest amount in terms of percentage of resources on development at 35.4%. And you see another chart that shows you that that is actually true. Now, these are some 33 counties. Look at the map. It is all red. So these 33 counties, each of them contributed less than 2%, each of these counties. Less than 2% to the national economy. So the ones that are not shaded then would be part of the top 10 counties and some more. So I'm not going to go through that list, but you can see where they come from, distributed across the country, the northeastern region, the northern part of Kenya, but also the southern and near the coastal area, apart from, say, Mombasa, that is not on that list. So combined, they only accounted for 33.2%. So this is 70% of the country in terms of the number of counties, but they're contributing 33.2% to the economy, basically because of the challenges they face. They don't have a lot of agricultural arable land, but also there's not sufficient water for irrigation or even rain for rain-fed agriculture. Now, the basis of gross county product tabulation is usually on the number of employees and their earnings. They also look at the population. They also look at the quantities and value of production, meaning if a county like Kiambu has more agricultural activity, then it's obviously going to score higher than, say, Marsabit. Distribution of establishments in terms of the facilities that they are there in that county that may be productive, students' enrollment, as well as household consumption, and again, the number of livestock that would be in that county also counts as part of the wealth generation. Now, for regional contribution, this is important because previously we've had politicians say that certain regions contribute 60% of the national GDP. Is that true? Let's see. So Nairobi, as a county, but also as a region, 27.5% is its contribution, the highest in the country. Rift Valley contributes 20.7%. Now, if you're to knock out Nakuru from Rift Valley and move it to Mount Kenya, then Mount Kenya would rise to 24%. But regionally, it is within Rift Valley, so 20.7%. For Mount Kenya, the remaining 9 counties, including Laikipia, then accounts for 19.2% contribution to the national economy. Nyanza region, the 4 counties plus Nyamira and Kisii account for 9.5% contribution. The coastal counties, including Mombasa, contribute 9%. The Western Kenya, Vihiga, Busia, Kakamega, and Bungoma, 6% contribution. Ukambani region, the 3 counties contribute 5.4%, and Northern Kenya contribute only 2.4%. This Northern Kenya also includes the county of Marsabit, and that's how the regions are contributing. Now, this is important because the control of budget gave a figure of how counties are spending their resources. Obviously, if they spend more on development, you're expecting to see more impact in terms of the generation of wealth in the country or in the economy. Now, these 2 quarters, which is personnel emoluments, so the salaries were the highest at 45.5%. For operations and maintenance, this is running the government, it accounted for 31.8%. So combined, that is more than 77% of resources going to recurrent expenditure. That leaves just 22.8% that is going to development expenditure. Does that explain why the counties are not contributing as much to the national economy? Maybe. The final thing I want us to look at, you may not read this, but this is a chart just to show you. So we're supposed to be here. This is 30%. Every county should spend at least 30% of resources on development. How many counties are able to do that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 counties. The rest, which are 40, spent less than 30% of resources on development, including some that went below 20%. You may want to know which ones they are. There's Migori, Laikipia, Tharaka Nithi, Mombasa, Busia, Machakos, Nairobi City County, Kiambu, and Kisii. And that's how it is looking in terms of expenditure on development and more, according to the control of budget. And that is data point tonight on the gross county product by the counties. So in the meantime, President William Ruto has committed